हेलो गाइस, वेलकम बैक टू आवर चैनल। और आज हम जानेंगे रिस्क मैनेजमेंट क्या है। फ्रेंड्स, जो भी लोग नौकरी कर रहे हैं कॉरपोरेट वर्ल्ड में, जो भी डिफरेंट डिफरेंट पोजीशंस होल्ड कर रहे हैं, वो कहीं ना कहीं रिस्क मैनेजमेंट के बारे में आप सुनते ही हैं। अगर आप नौकरी भी नहीं कर रहे हैं, आप स्टूडेंट हैं, आप घर पे हैं, तो भी रिस्क ऐसी चीज़ है जो बी इट प्रोफेशनल लाइफ बी इट पर्सनल लाइफ, आपको कहीं ना कहीं रिस्क तो फेस करना ही पड़ेगा। इसीलिए इट्स बेटर टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज रिस्क, ये कैसे आता है, इसको कम कैसे करते हैं। लेट्स बिगिन विदाउट वेस्टिंग एनी टाइम गाइस। What is risk management? Risk management is a good management practice. Like, if any organization is following a risk management practice, then it's good to have that organization is having that practice. It is a process that enable improvement in decision making. So, how does risk management helps you improve your decisions? Suppose if there is any asset, you are aware that this asset there is a threat and vulnerability which can expose this asset. So you would be prepared to take suitable countermeasures, suitable steps to protect that asset, right? A logical and systematic approach. Risk management is a logical and systematic approach. Risk management includes identifying opportunities, which I told you already, identifying impact and likelihood, and what are the vulnerabilities for our asset and what are the threats for our assets. So we'll understand all these scenarios going forward. What is risk assessment? What is risk analysis? How do we evaluate risk? How risk analysis is different from risk evaluation. So everything will be explained in the later slides. Okay, so let's move forward. So what is risk management? Risk management is the name given to a logical and systematic method of identifying, analyzing, treating, and monitoring the risks involved in any activity or process. So what does that mean? Suppose if you are doing any activity, you are carrying out any activity. Suppose, for example, if you are in a security. So what is risk management? Risk management for you is, first you have to identify what are the threats for your security. Suppose if you are in a security, then there can be a terrorist threat, there can be a threat of fire, there can be earthquake threat. So we need to identify first what is the threat. Then we need to analyze, like, what is the impact, what is the probability of that threat happening, what is the probability of that threat occurring, and how much impact our organization have to face. So in that risk analysis, we do that impact and likelihood analysis. Treatment includes how do we treat our risk. Suppose if you have a risk of very high level or medium level, then how do we treat? So there are multiple options to treat any risk in an organization. You can either mitigate that risk or reduce that risk by applying suitable countermeasures or controls. You can avoid that risk by restricting the activity which you are performing, or you can transfer that risk. So risk transfer everybody is doing. You might be aware you are purchasing an insurance policy. So that is like a transfer of risk. Suppose if anything happens, then there is the insurance company which is going to take care of all the financial aspects. So in this case, we are downgrading the impact. So that is why uh, we are downgrading the impact. So we are transferring it to an insurance company. Or the last option is accept the risk. If you think that the countermeasures or controls which you are going to put, they will cost you more than the risk what is involved. So basically you need to do the cost benefit analysis. And if you think that yeah, the countermeasures which you are going to put, they are more in financial terms, then you would accept that risk. All right, so that this is the complete scenario of risk management. Let's move forward. So risk management is a methodology that helps manager make best use of their available resources. So when you do the risk management, when you do the risk analysis, you basically identify what are the threats and vulnerabilities, and what will be the impact, and what will be the probability to your company. So you have all the options to identify the resources, the available resources with you, how you can utilize that in your organization while preparing a enterprise risk management, right? सो जब भी आप रिस्क मैनेजमेंट करते हो तो आप दैट हेल्प्स यू इन यूजिंग द बेस्ट अवेलेबल रिसोर्सेज. हु यूजेस रिस्क मैनेजमेंट कौन यूज करता है? रिस्क मैनेजमेंट practices are widely used in public and private sectors covering a wide range of activities or operations. So आज के टाइम पे रिस्क मैनेजमेंट हर कंपनी में बन रहा है, हर कंपनी ये फ्रेमवर्क अपना रही है. Every company is doing the risk management, and there are risk managers who are responsible for that. So risk management is risk management can be done in any function, any organization, any kind of industry. And risk management is also important in your personal life as well, be it institution, be it insurance institution, be it healthcare, public institution, government institution, private institution, refineries, anything. So everywhere you need risk management. हर जगह आपको risk management करना पड़ेगा अगर आपके पास कोई भी asset है. What is an asset? Asset क्या है? Asset which holds any value, जिसकी कोई भी value है. So you need to do that risk management. Moving forward. Effective risk management is a recognized and valued skill. So everyone is not aware how to do a risk management, how to conduct a risk analysis. So it is a skill which needs to be developed. Educational institutional have formal study courses and award degrees in risk management. So if anyone wants to pursue a degree in risk management, they can opt for doing a degree through any institutes. The risk management process is well established. Risk management is now an integral part of business planning. So guys, you all might be aware that there's a function in every organization. Either we call it as a GRC team or risk management team or compliance team. So basically, these are the teams which conducts the risk assessment for the businesses, which prepares the enterprise risk management which prepares the enterprise risk management programs and successfully leads that program. So given that risk management is now an integral part of business planning, so anything you are doing, whether it is procuring a new asset, deploying a new asset, or removing a new asset, anything you are doing that involves a risk management. So you have to identify the threat and vulnerabilities, right? As we discussed. How is risk management used? The risk management process steps are a generic guideline for any organization regardless of the type of business, activity or functions. It says there are 7 steps in risk management process. So that's not like same for all the organization. There can be 5 steps, there can be 8 steps, there can be 10 steps. So steps can be determined according to your flexibility. Suppose I can combine 2 steps into one and then show you so my steps will be less, but the basic flow that goes will discuss that, right? So risk management also depends on the industry or the function for which you are working. So that we'll discuss. The basic process steps are: establish the context. So you first need to establish why you are doing the risk management. What is your function? What is your organization dealing with? Are you doing risk management for any asset which you are procuring? Are you doing risk management for your continuous function? Are you doing risk management for your financial aspect? So first we need to establish the context for which we are doing the risk assessment, and there is a risk management programs which coordinates all the functions, right? Identify the risk. Then comes the second step. We need to identify the risk. What are the risks involved in our business? Suppose if we take an example, you are driving a motorcycle, okay? So there is the risk of accident always, right? But you can reduce that risk by wearing a helmet. So by wearing a helmet, we'll call that as a countermeasure or control, and the risk is reduced when you wear the helmet, right? Analyze the risk. So in this risk analysis, we uh, identify what will be the impact, what will be the likelihood, right? So we need to identify impact and likelihood of the threat. So suppose I'm riding a motorcycle without helmet. So what will be the probability of me falling down? Probability will be very less because I'm a frequent rider, and I like probability will be very less once in a 5 years or once in 10 years, or maybe 5% as as that, right? So I'll give it a numerical value to the probability, and what will be the impact? Impact can be very severe, right? So we have a different parameter for scoring the impact parameter score. So in this case, in my case, if I'm not wearing an helmet and if I met with an accident, then there will the impact will be very severe. So this is a very high risky activity. Suppose let's take another example. Suppose I'm going by a four-wheeler and I'm sitting at a rear seat and I'm not wearing the seat belt. So what will be the probability of accident? The probability will be very less. And what will be the impact? In this case, impact will be little less as compared to bike, because in that case I will be fall down, and in this case I am sitting at the backside of the car, so I'll be little relaxed. So in this case, I'll risk will come down. So this the identification of impact, evaluation of impact and likelihood is done under the risk analysis part. We need to evaluate the risk. What is our risk appetite for the business? How much risk we can afford? It is whether this risk is acceptable to us or not, that we need to evaluate. Then we need to treat the risk, whether we'll accept that risk, we'll mitigate that risk by adopting the suitable countermeasures, or we'll transfer that risk. All those steps we need to do in the risk process. Risk is dynamic and subject to constant change, so the process includes continuing monitoring and review and communication and consultants. So this step is very important because risk is dynamic. Let's take the similar example. Risk is never the same. Risk keeps evolving like the threats are evolving. If we take the similar example of a ride in a car, suppose if we are riding in an electric vehicle. So in electric vehicle, there will be different risk as compared to our standard vehicle, right? So in that case, we need to do the risk assessment, and we need to consider what will be the threats in case of an electric vehicle. Threat can be like overheating of battery, which the cases which we have recently seen, that the battery is overheated and burnt into ashes, right? So risk is dynamic and subject to constant change. So the process includes monitoring and review. We need to continually monitor and review our risk, and we need to continually do the risk assessment periodically. And same, we need to communicate it to a board of directors and executive members and all the stakeholders who are involved in. Moving forward, these all are the steps which which we have already discussed, identify the risks, analyze, monitor, evaluate, treat the risk, acceptance. Yeah, so these, I believe I have already explained all these steps to you in a very good manner. If you have any doubts or if anything is coming to your mind, you just comment below. And I would be happy to take all your doubts. So now, who does the risk assessment? So it's not, there is no single person who can be like who will be doing the risk assessment, but usually what organizations do is they appoint a member. The regular employee, they appoint a member who is called as risk management champion with appropriate qualification, including experience and analytical skills. So usually this is a function of GRC team or the individual functions. They need to do it for their individual functions, but usually there is a risk manager in all the functions who is responsible for doing the risk assessment, is having the adequate qualifications which are required which are required for doing the risk assessment, right? So, form a risk management committee representative of operational area. So there is a risk management committee in all the organization, and there are different representatives from different operational areas. Suppose there will be representative from security, there will be representative from safety, there will be representative from maintenance, so that all the inputs can be clubbed and the risk that a successful risk management program is implemented in the organization. Conduct risk management workshops. So these are very important for all other employees to understand the risk which are involved in day-to-day operations, so that they will be able to take care of the risks, right? Determining operating procedures. So we define the standard operating procedures that need to be followed to. Sources of information for risk assessment. Identify commodity or control risk. Right. So sources of information for risk assessments, you need to first identify what you are trying to protect. What are your assets? So as per that, the thing which you are trying to protect, you need to think according to that. Okay, so here comes the important part. After establishing likelihood and consequence, you can use a table like this to set a level of risk. You must define what these risk levels means to you. So this table might look very hard to you, but this is actually very simple. This is, we call it as a risk matrix, or we also call it as a 5 by 5 risk matrix. So why we call it as a 5 by 5 risk matrix? It is because here you see five number of tabs. Here you will see five number of tabs, and here also five number of rows and five number of columns. So this is calculated by like analyzing the likelihood and the consequence or the impact which we already discussed. So if the impact of any threat exploiting the vulnerability is going to be high, negligible or extreme, as per that we plot it into the risk matrix. And what is the likelihood of that event happening, what is the likelihood of threat exploiting a vulnerability. So let's understand this by a very simple example. Suppose you are a security manager for a data center. So while doing the risk analysis, you have a threat of terrorist attack. So now you need to plot that risk of terrorist attack into 5 by 5 risk matrix. So where you will plot that? Okay. First, we need to evaluate what is the likelihood of terrorist attack happening. So terrorist attack is very rare and like usually we don't see it happening every year or every other day. So usually the likelihood is very rare, right? So in that case, you will plot it here, rare, the likelihood rare here, and the impact is going to be very high. So you will plot the impact column here. So it will give us a risk rating of moderate. We need to take suitable countermeasures to bring it to an acceptable level. So while after doing the inherent risk assessment, which we do, and then we apply the suitable countermeasures, the risk which is still left is called as residual risk. So what is an, if someone asks you what is an residual risk? Residual risk is the risk which is left even after applying suitable countermeasures. Okay, let's understand it by a little example. Suppose there is an access control which is installed at gates and it is working perfectly fine. But still, it is not 100% foolproof that it will restrict all the contractors or all the workers who are coming through that gate. There can be chances of downtime, then when access control won't be working, there can be chances of impersonation, there can be chances of tailgating or piggybacking. So in all those cases, we have mitigated the risk, but we have not reduced the risk completely to zero, right? So risk always remains with us, and the risk which remains after applying the countermeasures are is called as residual risk. So keep that. Treating the risk, which we already discussed, either you can avoid the risk by doing the risky activity, by restricting by stopping the activity which you are doing and which is creating risk. We can accept the risk if the impact of that risk is very low, then we can accept that, we can transfer that to a third party or insurance party, or we can um, reduce, avoid, accept, and transfer. Yeah. So, yeah, this we have all discussed. Risk profiles are developed as a means for putting risk management into practice at operational levels. So we usually prepare risk profiles. A risk profile is normally specific to a particular office. It describes the particular function. It describes the risk areas, the level of risk, the countermeasures adopted, And who is the risk owner? Risk owner is a person who is responsible for treating the risk, right? So these all are monitor and review. We have already discussed that using risk management. Yeah. So how to use a risk management? The starting point is the action plan. You need to have an action plan to start using the risk management. Allocate responsibility, define a a risk champion within your function who will be dedicated towards working the risk management program, and evaluate how different risk management processes can be applied to your organization, and survey the existing skills and do a training which needs after and which needs assessment, so that you can identify who is eligible to be a risk champion, right?